Hello everyone, my name is Lloyd Meeker and I'm here to read an excerpt from my new book, The Companion. I want to thank Mackie for forcing me further into the 21st century by making me read one instead of just sending it in. So here we are at the edge of Lloyd's comfort zone, doing something brand new, and I hope it helps you get a feel for the book and draws you into the story. You've probably already read the blurb, so I don't need to give you too much of a setup, although this scene requires a little. Shepard is the narrator throughout the book, so it's in first person. And at this point, he and Detective Marco Fidanza are having dinner in Shepard's apartment. Marco's a pretty traditional kind of guy. He has pretty traditional views of relationships. And the fact that Shepard is, in his view, just one or two steps away from being a prostitute is not an easy thing for him to get his head around. However, they're very attracted to each other, and as they've prepared dinner at Shepard's apartment, they've both, without discussing it, agreed that the evening will end up in bed. So here they are. Marco's fighting through some of his reservations, and that's what this scene is about. We served up the food and sat. Everything was perfect. Buon appetito, I said, shaking out my napkin. He snorted. My family just says mangiamo, it's more to the point. We spoke of family, what it was like to have siblings, what it was like to have none. We talked in safe terms about his work and carefully avoided mine. The food disappeared way too soon. There was so much more to talk about. Do you want dessert? I asked. Not yet. He stared at me, hard. Later. More wine? A little, not much. It's incredible, though. I felt some tension mounting in him, but he didn't say anything. He just stared into his wine glass as if there were a message in it that he needed to read. I cleared our plates and sat back down and waited. I put my hand on his, wanting him. He looked up at me like a wild animal, fierce and wary. He put his wineglass down. What does sex mean to you? He asked quietly. I think it's essential to a happy life. I'm a big fan. He scowled. Don't be cute. I want the real answer. I was in his interrogation room again, with the recorder running and the pine disinfectant stinging my nose. I took a sip of wine to banish the smell. My real answer. That's the only kind. Zero tolerance for frauds, remember? I tried to lighten his seriousness. The real answer is complex. I might ramble. You can take your time. I need to know. I took a deep breath. Remember, you asked, I said. Before anything happens between us, he repeated, as if each word weighed as much as he could lift. I need to know. I took a deep breath and let it out. Okay. To my surprise, the truth bubbled up easily, asking me to tell him things I'd seldom told a therapist and never a date. The sacred essence of my work. My first sexual attraction to a man comes in a feeling that somewhere in his body lies a secret, a story I need to learn. Maybe a story he doesn't even know he's keeping. I looked out the window onto the lights of Westwood Village and UCLA winking in the purple evening, feeling dangerously exposed. But he'd asked, and I'd promised. It sounds arrogant to say it out loud, but sometimes I feel he's asking me for help. Can you take the journey to where I keep my secrets, the ones I can't find unless we share our bodies? If a man can tell you a story with words, he's giving you one of his surface ones, his history, his wounds, his hopes. Very few of those arouse me. Can I get to the deeper ones? That's the challenge. Will he let me into the sweet, dark archives of his body, the haunted places in his heart? His sacred stories, the powerful wordless ones, are there, waiting, stored in his skin, his breath, his seed. Those are the ones I love. I bit my lip, certain this sounded daft to him. I needed him to understand. What if he didn't, or wouldn't? I looked into his eyes. They told me nothing. Ruthless poker player's eyes. I may sound crazy, but you wanted the truth. He just stared back, not moving. Gathering myself, I plunged forward. Somewhere under his skin, stored in some guarded place like a prisoner, lies that memory, or maybe a dream, a longing I can awaken, excavate with my touch, my body, coaxing out his stories aching to be heard. We become allies then, brothers in some ancient tribe, preparing for a sacred ceremony of spirit and flesh, a ceremony greater than either of us. There are clues how to start. He shows me in the way his hand moves, or the stretch of his throat when he turns his head, the way he holds his mouth when he throws back his head and laughs, the way he speaks of small regrets. When the ceremony begins, he unfolds as if he's an entire foreign country, a different culture, a story in a strange language I can understand only when my tongue is on his skin, when his flesh is inside me, when his flesh welcomes mine inside him. As we go deeper, his body guides me. When did he get that tattoo? What did it mean to him at the time? And what does it mean to him now? When did his eyes become so deep? When the first lines of age creased his face, did he laugh in his strength, or did it take him time to wear them with grace? When his heart was first broken, where did he store the pain? I pointed to Marco's face. When he got the scar that cuts through his eyebrow, what was he doing? His eye twitched, but he said nothing. Our union forms a unique Rosetta Stone, making us each understandable to the other so long as we're joined. Then we speak the wordless language that men know only when they are filled, overflowing with pleasure and respect. Everything about him radiates his meaning to me, from the folding of an eyelid to the slow unfurling of foreskin, drawing away to reveal more of his power. We fall into beauty together. No matter what he looks like, there isn't a man so open and alive as that, so hungry to welcome the mystery of another, so hot to share himself, to know the secrets he can't find in himself except through the other, secrets to be poured back into him through the breath and pulse and saliva and seed of another, who isn't beautiful to me. I leaned forward, buzzing with the pleasure of speaking so openly. Then afterward, very rarely, when a man is soft and vulnerable, in the moments before his breath returns to normal, before he closes himself again to the outer world, putting his outer body back on like insulating armor, I can touch the one who tells the stories, the one who reaches through them to be known, even if only for a moment. I believe that connection lasts forever and becomes a new, shared story we each, if we're lucky, can tell others. I had nothing more to say. The AC whispered down on us, the only sound in the room. Marco drained his glass, not meeting my eyes. I made to pour him more, but He held up his hand to stop me. He stared at the dregs for an uncomfortably long time. I wanted to defend what I'd said, but I'd already said far more than I should have. I'd been an idiot to give him the truth just because he'd asked for it. When I thought about it now, it must have sounded like pretentious bullshit to him. Did that happen between you and Lewis? His voice had cooled and hardened. Touching the one who tells the stories? With a shock, I realized it had, often, effortlessly, no excavation needed, so naturally it hadn't even registered as the rare magic I'd been describing. That had to be the reason Steph meant so much to me. Yes, I looked away, missing Steph, and unable to look Marco in the eye, afraid I'd see his sneer. Even if it meant a sudden end to the evening, I wouldn't let Marco pass judgment on the beauty Steph and I had shared. That was off limits. He pushed his chair back and stood. I looked up but couldn't read his face at all. He gestured with both hands, palms up. I stood. He hooked his fingers inside my belt and led me into the bedroom. He wasn't rough, but he'd taken charge without negotiation. My heart raced, unsure. Was he angry? Scornful? I had no idea. He stopped me at the foot of the bed, putting his hands on my hips. Without once breaking eye contact, he began pulling my shirt out of my jeans. Soft with compliance, I lifted my arms as he drew the shirt over my head. He tossed it on the floor. In the dim light, his fingers traced my throat, pausing at the 3 bloody marks at the base of my neck. There is a God after all, he chuckled. I was afraid you would be too perfect to be real. But now I see you are not perfect, but beautiful instead. His conqueror's smile was dazzling. Beautiful is much, much better than perfect. His eyes were dark lamps, burning into mine. He found my belt buckle, and he opened my jeans, softly scraped his nails across my skin, just above the waistband of my shorts. Take those off, he ordered softly. I obeyed. He pulled his own clothes off in swift efficiency, and was waiting for me, naked and erect by the time I had finished. The black hair I'd glimpsed before covered his muscular chest. It dusted his belly, too, pushing into a heavy trail that plunged to his groin, then spread to forest his thighs. He stood, muscles taut, poised, sinuous, dark, powerful. He put his hands on my hips again and pulled me into him. He lapped the hollow of my throat with an aggressive tongue, biting softly as he grazed. Just so you know up front, he said, you are not going to be digging for my stories tonight. I am going to shout them into you until you cover your ears and beg for mercy. You will not escape me until you've heard everything I have to tell you. His eyes blazed. This could take a long time. So I hope that gives you a taste of The Companion. It's a mystical, romance, murder mystery, New Age Enlightenment story, all of those things, hopefully in a mix that you will find enjoyable and stimulating. So thanks again to Sinfully Sexy and to Mackie, and we'll see you around. Bye.